Good morning, first of all, dear friends. We're happy to meet you again for this new day of the 13th edition of the Eduniversal World Convention. Today we will have again brilliant speakers who will share the experience, knowledge, insights with us. We hope you enjoyed the Palms of Excellence ceremony that we had yesterday. Please note that the results of the new 2020 Best Business Schools ranking in 154 countries will be available today on our website at universalranking.com after the top awards gala ceremony that we will enjoy this evening. Also, please note the convention sessions, all the convention sessions are recorded, and you can already watch all the sessions of the previous 2 days on our YouTube channel at Universal World Convention. And now let's start with the introduction of the day. And I invite Marie-Jo to present our chairperson for the third day of our program. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hello, everyone. Do you hear me? Yes, I think so.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Luba. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to introduce the third day of the 2020 Eduniversal World Convention. We are honored to have here with us Professor Daniel Traca, Dean and Professor of Economics at Nova SVE. He is also visiting professor at INSEAD in France and Singapore. We welcome you to introduce the third day of our virtual event and to share your vision about the changes in the role of business schools in society. Daniel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marie-José. Let me try to move around here. This should be okay. And now I actually become a real person in front of everybody. Hi, everybody. I guess by now you're actually looking at me and you're not seeing my presentation, correct?
Correct.
Right. So we need to change some of this stuff. So let me see what I can do here. Okay. This at this point should have the presentation.
Correct.
And the right screen should have my camera on. Better?
All better.
Very good. Okay, so let me go back to my presentation, and let me start by, of course, welcome you to this day of consideration about the future of business schools. Great pleasure to be here with Eduniversal. I wish we could actually be on campus welcoming all of you. Unfortunately, the situation was such that it got a bit tougher. But thanks to Eduniversal initiative, we're able to be here digitally. This is the 2020 is the year of digital, but we were able to be here and to keep on going. What I hope is that in the future, we are going to be able to come back to Nova, that you'll be able to come and travel to see us, to visit us, and let me open the door to welcome you at any time in the future. I have about 10 minutes to speak to you, so I want to use it productively to tell you a little bit about the way we at Nova are looking at the world, are looking at the changing responsibility that we as business schools have as we face the world, and are looking at what that implies to our strategy. And so, the title of my presentation, as I mentioned to you, is how we in business schools can contribute to building a brighter future. I think there are some issues with the presentations. If you're having trouble seeing the slides, what you should do is zoom in to the presentation and refresh your screen. Okay. Now, the introduction to this is context. And the introduction to this is, of course, to try to see what is happening in the world today. Okay, so sorry, somehow my slides are not moving, and so I'm going to have to move here. Okay, so I'm not seeing the slide. I hope you are seeing the slide. If you're not seeing the slide, refresh. Anyway, if you're not seeing the slide, let me explain to you what we are seeing in this slide, what should be in this slide. If you actually look at the world we live, are you actually seeing the slide or not? Can I get a...
Yes.
You are? Okay, good. I'm not. But anyway, it says, if you look at the world today, we see the world, not just business schools, but we see the world challenged by a tremendous amount of forces. These are what I call disruption forces. They include the fact that generations are changing their mindset. They include the fact that technology is changing very fast and digital transformation is affecting the life, not just of organizations, but of individuals. It includes sustainability. Okay, I just got a note that my webcam was off, so I'm going to turn it on. But I'm going to turn it on. Okay, it should be okay now?
Yes.
Okay, anyway. So it includes the issues of sustainability and climate change, globalization, inequality. The pandemic has brought a new force, which is this push for resilience and the need for resilience and the focus on resilience. We don't just have to optimize, we have to be resilient. So all these disruption forces are changing our world. And the fact that we basically have institutions in our world that are not prepared to cope with this reality is creating what I call the disruption gap. And so these disruption forces are here with us, they're accelerating. And the fact is that individuals, through their skills, their attitudes, their behavior, organizations, through their leadership, the strategies that they need, the kind of culture that they need, and even society in general, by the way we actually operate as a society and we make choices as a society, the fact is that we are not ready. We don't have the institutions to cope with these disruption forces. This is creating as I mentioned, what I call a disruption gap. Basically, we need to rethink the way we are organized in our societies, as individuals, as organizations, and as a society. And so I think that this is a job for all of us in our society. And by the way, this disruption gap is clearly with us. If you turn on the TV today, you're going to see strange things happening in the United States, strange things happening in Britain, strange things happening in India, strange things happening in Hong Kong. And you can see how this disruption gap is creating a problem that our society cannot cope. And the danger is that if our society cannot rebuild its institutions to cope with this new world, which is a world that's very different from the world of the end of the 20th century. And by the way, our institutions were designed for the world between 1950 and 2000. Our institutions were not designed for the world with all these disruption forces. And so these inability of our institutions to cope with this, of our organizations, of our skills to cope with this, is creating this disruption gap. And I see that we as business schools need to take on this challenge. We need to basically rethink the way we operate, what our mission is, what our impact is, to basically be able to help society cope with these challenges. The downside risk is that unless we actually all together transform our society, renovate the institutions of our society, we run the risk of serious mayhem and of serious dark ages ahead of us. And that's our responsibility. And that's our social responsibility. And so how are we coping with this at Nova? How are we coping this in our strategy? We've outlined 3 key elements. How we're looking at about the future. How are we redesigning the kind of skills that we deliver? How are we reliving our campus to make it an ecosystem for organization, for civil society, so that we are no longer closed, but we are wide open? And now we are looking at the knowledge that we are producing, at the learning that that we are developing, to focus it more on the impact that we create, on the insight that we deliver, than on a closed door search for the truth. And so along these three lines, let me tell you how we are operating on this. From the point of view of skills, we have two key challenges ahead. I once spoke to the European CEO of Novartis, and they said, we hire based on creativity, based on the ability to cooperate, based on the ability to take decisions, on the courage to take decisions. I highlighted these 5 C's as critical skills that we need to deliver. Courage, to take tough decisions and live with them. Creativity, to think of new solutions that are outside the box. Collaboration, to work with others and come up with solutions with others. Commitment and resilience, to be able to make sure that when things don't go our way, we are resilient and we keep pushing. And communication, to be able to lead. The problem is that these are not skills that we as business schools, namely we as faculty, sitting in our offices and going into our classrooms, are able to deliver. We've not been trained for this. So what we are doing at Nova is putting entrepreneurship and project-based learning at the core of the skill development, with the idea that students will learn not just by listening to faculty, but by actually getting their hands dirty, having to cope with challenges and overcoming challenges themselves. The second dimension of skills is the fact that the boundaries between data, tech, science, and humanities like management and economics is over. You cannot be a manager unless you are well-versed in the issues of data, tech, and science. Interdisciplinarity and diversity become core. And so this notion of interdisciplinarity is becoming core to what we do. We teach them in the classroom. We want to bring in students that have all sorts of backgrounds, and we want to try to make their education as broad, as interdisciplinary, and as diverse as possible. So this means a lot of changes in the way we teach, in the way we expect students to learn, in our interaction with students, in the kind of students we admit, a sea of change from the way we were doing things before. The second element of what we're doing is taking our campus not just as a way where faculty and students interact, but as a massive ecosystem. We are working with companies in a very different way. For example, in executive education, we no longer just teach students, we teach students. We work with companies in the long term to make sure that the culture that they have gets renovated. We're embedded with these organizations. We use our students to generate new ideas for these companies. We focus a lot with leadership on the kind of values and the kind of purpose that we need to deliver. So we are now not just doing arm's length intervention with organizations, we're actually partnering with organizations to basically help them transform. With the idea that we as universities, we that host the students, are in a better position to think about the future than anyone else. Probably even that as consultants, because we have the future with us, not the past, not the present. At the same time, our campus is becoming an ecosystem. We are hosting on our campus companies, startups, and we want to work with them and the faculty so that everybody contributes and everybody benefits. Business and startups will contribute by basically providing the kind of skills that our students need, and will benefit by leveraging the ability to create of these students. Faculty will contribute by giving its insight and will benefit by basically generating new ideas that create research that are more impactful. And we decide this is no longer just virtual. Our campus has to be the place where all this happens. So companies will have their innovation teams on campus. Startups will be on campus. Students and faculty will be on campus, and they'll all be cooperating in an ecosystem that we want to create. So the way that we are going to help with organizations is through a more embedded engagement, not just a learning engagement, a more embedded engagement, and by turning our campus into an ecosystem of innovation where everybody benefits and everybody contributes. And finally, we're trying to work on making sure that our knowledge and our learning delivers more impact and more insight. We are creating an impact model that I think my colleague has already presented yesterday, where Nova's no longer has just a business model, but this business model as an impact model aligned with the SDGs, where we can show the impact we have. And this impact has to be like a business model which is scalable. The impact model also has to be scalable. The more Nova grows, the more impact is going to be. We are connecting to faculty. So I just actually have news that Louise is going to present our impact model this afternoon. So I'd like to invite you to come and attend. We are connecting to faculty because we want faculty to do its research, publications, but we want it to be part of knowledge centers that are very much connected to companies. Okay? And these knowledge centers are core to what we're doing. And finally, we think that in this new world, in this world of the 21st century, government will have a stronger role to play. And so we are making sure that as we teach and make sure that companies get transformed, that government also gets transformed. It gets better managed, it produces better policies, and is more aware of its impact. So we are trying to bridge the gap between government and companies by making sure that we're all together, learning the same skills and working together for the world. So these are the three avenues that we're exploring. We are hoping to create impact and to help renovate society for a future that we hope is of more hope. And I think this is a challenge that we are doing it this way. But the important thing is, and the challenge that I'd like to leave here, is that every single business school thinks not just of where they stand in rankings, not just in how many students they'll be able to attract, not just in how much internationalization they are doing, but actually on how we're helping to bridge this disruption gap, bringing to students this and to organize and to through the lifelong learning the skills for the future, helping organizations transform themselves, become more innovative, more agile, more aligned with the values and purpose, and making sure that all we do has insight, that is connecting to reality and is helping government and sustainable development move forward. So I hope that at some point you'll come to Nova and find out more about what we're doing. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to us. And I'd like to thank Eduniversal for sticking to Nova and making sure that even in this virtual world, our hope of rethinking the future of business schools happens and doesn't get delayed for one more year. The pandemic is amongst us, but we need to keep working because, as I said, the point is time is of the essence. The world needs us to change. The world needs us to help the world itself change. Thank you very much. Thank you. So I guess there'll be a next speaker coming.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Professor Traca, to share with us your vision. And now, dear ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to call the leaders of the keynote interview about imagination, initiative, inspiration, ignition, investment, entrepreneurship, and higher education. The interview leader is Dr. Ayman Ismail, Associate Professor of Management and the Director of American University in Cairo Venture Lab, the top university-based incubator in Egypt, and our keynote speaker, Mr. Ricardo Marwao, co-founder Beta I, entrepreneur, investor, connector, fire starter, and proud father. For your information, Beta I was born